Hey, it's Lemon. Welcome to the Backlogs. A while back, I proved that you could, more or less, beat Grime with only parrying. We didn't tackle all of the bosses, since some of them required hitting to activate, and there were a few points in the run where we had to use an attack to progress. But still, an overall very satisfying run to perform. And funnily enough, after my video released, an enemy that blocks your progress and keeps you from having a purely parry-only run was changed so that you can now get over it, which means that true parry-only runs are now a possibility in Grime. I'm not sure if that happened because of my video or if it's just pure coincidence, but hey, I'll take what I can get. But having played an unwilling participant in our last Grime run, I thought it was time we did something a bit more explosive. It's time to find out. Can you beat Grime with only consumables? So, let's chat about how consumables work in this game. They're the same as any other game, actually. A good number of them do damage, but have a limited ammo count. And more often than not, the damage is bad. Furthermore, unlike most games, consumables are actually really hard to come by. You can find a few out and about in the world, but not very many. And while they can be dropped by enemies, you'd be spending consumables with only a chance to gain enough back to be making any kind of profit. You can also buy them from merchants later in the game, much later, but they can only be bought in limited quantities, never to be restocked again, as far as I can tell. So with these heavy limitations put upon the run, any bets on how far you can actually get? Yep, that's it. Hope you enjoyed the video. Feel free to leave a like and comment down below. So yeah, consumables only can't actually be done. The damage is too low, the ammunition limitations are too tight, and considering there's no reliable way to get unlimited amounts of consumables throughout the run, I set this run down for months, thinking it impossible. But then, a breakthrough. While I was streaming Grime in preparation for the DLC the game recently added, which, by the way, changes the entire game's New Game Plus mode and is crazy awesome, chat asked whether the consumable-only run was possible. I patiently explained everything I've talked about up to this point in the video, to which chat had one reply: grinding is cringe, cheating is based. And by golly, they're right. After all, wouldn't be the first time I've done a consumable run that shouldn't, by its very nature, be possible. Hell, I beat Salt and Sanctuary with only potatoes, the worst quote-unquote weapon in the game. And that run was only possible because Zephyr modded them in by the literal thousands. So, with that in mind, here's the rules for this particular run. I start the run with nothing. No weapons, no consumables, no armor. However, once I find a consumable weapon, through the power of cheating and starch ever flowing, that consumable essentially becomes an unlimited use item, to be used for damage as I see fit. This rule does not apply to consumables that do not do damage, so I can't go spawning in unlimited mass items, aka souls, because giving myself unlimited levels on top of unlimited consumable weapons would just be boring. In addition, because this is a consumables only challenge, parrying and any kind of gravity damage are completely off limits, which doesn't sound too bad until you remember one of the main mechanics of Grime: trait points. Yep, suddenly this run doesn't sound so easy, does it? For those of you who haven't played the game, here's a quick explanation. Many bosses in Grime give you trait points, which you can use to gain special skills. But the only way to unlock these special skills is by consuming enemies, which means you have to parry them. And since I can't parry enemies, that means that trait points are worth jack all to my character. These skills are extremely important for proper character building, ranging from passive damage to stamina regen skills to extra health. And we get none of them, which means consumables have to do all of the heavy lifting. Thankfully, we've got two things going for us. Firstly, we've got two options for damage before the first boss: nails and eyes, which from here on out I will be referring to as throwing knives and firebombs respectively. Both have their uses. Firebombs are thrown in an arcing motion, so they don't do well in tight spaces, but when they do hit, they do massive amounts of damage. And throwing knives, while doing relatively poor damage in comparison, fly straight, which means they're great for compact corridors or for leading a single enemy away from its pack. The second thing we have going for us is that consumables don't require any kind of stats to use, which means we can pump all of our levels into health and stamina and focus on being the healthiest black hole you ever did see. This does unfortunately bring to light the fact that consumables don't scale with stats, which means the only way to increase our damage is to find better consumables. But hey, one problem at a time. And the first problem at hand is the amalgam. Firebombs are definitely going to be my bread and butter when it comes to bosses. The chunky damage they provide is easily enough to get the amalgam into its second phase with little issue. And while it's able to protect itself with its face shields, simply warping over to the other side of the arena is all it's going to take to get the damage rolling again. Almost there. Almost there. Just one more firebomb and we can... Well, that happened. More than once, actually. Truly, there is no greater embarrassment than the magic pixel. But after several more agonizing deaths, muscle memory started to form. Consumables take a bit longer than you'd think to use, and with my ability to parry removed, timing is everything. But once you figure out that timing, it's just a matter of applying pressure. Amalgam destroyed. One down, many more to go. Absorbing the amalgam gives us the Ardor ability. Essentially, every enemy we kill without taking damage increases our number in the top left. The higher the number, the more souls, mass, we accumulate with each kill, which means more health and stamina for my boy. Very useful indeed. I've also grabbed a spiky blue armor set from the beginning area, which gives me a boost to health and stamina when worn. Something tells me this is both the first and last armor I'll be wearing this run. And so, having escaped the cave, we now have access to the world and its challenges at large. And it's here that the most frustrating and exciting part of doing a Grime run comes into play. There's no wiki for this game. I mean, there's a bare bones one, but it covers like 6 topics, and none of them are fleshed out. The only information this game does have is a map, which some hero did a fantastic job on. Big shout out to D'Imagine, you absolute legend. Let me know if you have any interest in making maps for Salt and Sacrifice, yeah? Could use a hand. But because there's no wiki for this game, everything must be tested on its own merit. I have no idea what consumables there are in this game, I have no idea what they do, and I don't know which, if any, are worth my time. So, if nothing else, this run will showcase literally all of them. Should be fun. I also have no complete registry of how many bosses there are or their stats, or anything about enemies if I'm being honest. So if there's an enemy out there that's resistant to consumable attacks for some reason, looking at you, Martyr Logarius, we might be out of luck. God, I am just taking potshots at Bloodborne with every video I make now, am I okay? But hey, identity crisis aside, I found a new consumable, volatile blobs. These things are weird. Basically the firebomb, but you can set them and forget them. They go off after a short period of time, or whenever an enemy runs into them. But they also go off if you bump into them yourself. Not exactly ideal. But like all things, I'm sure they'll have a use case if I think about it long enough. Until then though, we've got new prey to catch. This guy here. This thing warps away from you and runs all over the map, but if you can corner one and destroy it, you'll get Thin Knacker. Collect 3 of these, and you'll get a healing item that regenerates at every checkpoint. Consider me sold. I make my way around the desert, killing every enemy I come across as I go so I can keep leveling up, all of which I've been pumping into stamina. Because if I can't parry, I need to dodge. And probably quite a bit too. I make my way into Lithic, collecting a few keepsakes as I go, and for the most part, have little to no issue disposing of the enemies I find. Annoying fact about the firebomb, if a platform is semi-solid, the firebombs don't explode when they hit the floor, but rather go through it like it doesn't exist. Turns out firebombs aren't the answer to every single problem. But don't worry, they still apply in most cases, like this one here. Look at these happy rock people. Look how excited they are for art class. Aw, they even convinced the big guy to come join the next class and learn how to do crafts. Well, seems like the perfect time for violence. You know, I may have misread the room. The harmless rock giant doesn't take much damage if you hit his body, but his head is an active weak point. Hit that a few times, and this fight is over before it even began. Which brings up a strength of the consumables, their range. Normally, hitting the rock giant's head requires proper distancing and jump attacks to hit. But with firebombs, victory is just a button press away. And just like that, we can breathe a little easier. Just kidding. What that really means is that if we find 2 more of these, we can get another heal. Which actually brings up another problem with this run. Because I can't parry and absorb enemies, I can never regain breath. Which means that I currently only get 1 single heal until I rest at a checkpoint. So that's cool. Oh look, an art trader. Good thing I've been collecting those throughout my travels. Seem to be missing one at the moment, but that's okay. I'm sure it'll turn up. Ah, there it is. Now to just bring it back and finish collecting all the armor pieces that trader was selling. But he never did bring it back. Because sometimes life just isn't fair, and your collection goes unfinished. And also because Lemon probably got distracted and forgot about that side mission entirely. Anyway, it's time for the next boss. The Whispering Mothers and their little buddy Steve. Oh, never mind. Just the mothers then. This fight is a bit tricky. Normally you can just absorb all of the mothers' ranged attacks and throw them right back at them. But because we aren't parrying, I have to dodge constantly around the arena, hoping to find holes in the attacks while simultaneously dealing damage. It's a lot harder than it looks, especially with the 2 of them attacking independently of one another. I'm starting to wonder if those parry iframes are more necessary than I thought. But after a few narrow escapes, I did it. The first mother is destroyed. Just 1 more to go. My, what big teeth you have. But don't worry, with there only being 1 mother now instead of 2, that means dodging will be twice as easy. Mulligan? Okay, let's try that again. Kill the first mother, keep keep a relatively safe distance from the second, and chuck firebombs like there's no tomorrow. Thank God she only has about half as much health. This fight shouldn't take... Okay then. This fight was hard. I don't know why, but for the life of me I couldn't get the timing down. The firebomb throw takes a lot longer than you think, and the mother's tackle attacks are very quick. It also doesn't help that, unlike normal play, I only have a single heal. Turns out absorbing enemy attacks and getting more heals in the middle of battle is more important than you think. But eventually, I had a realization. I may only get one heal, but there is a way to get one more. See this freaky guy? That's basically my soul pile. Unlike Dark Souls, you don't lose souls when you die, just your ardor. And breaking this twitchy fella will give you half of the ardor you had when you died. But it also gives you a good chunk of health, which means if I die in a boss fight, I can at the very least give myself a decent heal the next go around. Which happens to be just the boost I needed to beat the mothers. And to think, it only took 10 tries and a better understanding of the game mechanics to beat them. I'm starting to get a bad feeling about this run. But hey, absorbing the mothers gives me the pull ability, which lets me not only manipulate certain objects around the map, but also lets me pull certain enemy attacks, knocking enemies off balance. Now, we did say that gravity damage was off limits, and with certain trait skills, the pull ability can do damage to other enemies. But since I can't use trait skills, my pull ability does no damage to enemies whatsoever, and therefore doesn't break the rules. Besides, I have a strange feeling that we're going to need to knock certain enemies off balance if we're going to survive some of the later fights. Best to just accept that fact now. I arrive at the World Pillar and meet Shidra in all of his condescending glory. I also talk to Hyad to see if he has any new consumable weapons for me to play with. He does not. But I did find another thin knacker. So that's good, I guess. Actually, now that I think about it, I forgot to chase another warping enemy in the desert. And when we kill that one, we officially get our very own fetal pearl. Estus. It's an Estus. But yeah, more healing options. Good stuff all around. I make my way through Terrible Nightmare Tentacle Lightning Land, which, thankfully, isn't overly difficult and has 0 bosses hiding inside it. Or at least, it did. Now, however, there's this thing. What is this? Well, this probably calls for an explosion. Ah, there it is. Welcome to Flowerheart, one of the new bosses in the game. This absolute unit is made entirely of thick rocks, so my firebombs do little damage to his hide. All I can do is dodge his charges, avoid his ranged attacks, and slowly but surely whittle him down to— oh my god, there's 2! Okay, panic, just panic. Wait, why did that do more damage? Oh, okay, it's the flower. We can hit the flower. While this revelation certainly helps, this fight gets messy quick. The 2 golems are very good at keeping you at bay, and attacking them does little damage. But if you wait long enough, the flower will re-emerge, which means we can go back to doing larger chunks of damage. Please die. Sweet merciful God, they're coming. Please hurry up and die. Hey, first try, not even close. And with that boss defeated, I now have a new ability, sprinting. It's so beautiful. Hey Grime devs, thank you for listening to your community. You're the best. On that same note, the devs have also added new ranged weapons, like these bow daggers, which are exactly what they sound like. Shame we can't use them. That sounds like fun. But with the Flowerheart boss defeated, and a few remaining mini-bosses destroyed as well, we can finally move out of the Nerve Pass and into the next area, the Feaster's Lair. Thanks, I hate it. You know, I was always told growing up that if you don't have something nice to say, you shouldn't say it at all. But I guess that only applies to me because I have longer limbs. And now I take your shiny rock. That'll teach you to— oh god, I'm stuck. Bug report, bug report! Anywho, I dash around the area in search of new consumables and— wait, child bed? What is this? This wasn't here the last time I played. Oh wow, this is a whole new area, with new enemies and everything. Ew. You know, I don't think I'm supposed to be here yet. Oh, this one's passive. Wait, why does that sound familiar? Moms? Trading? Wait a minute, there's no way. Oh my god, are you the art trader? Jesus, buddy, what happened to you? You know what? I don't want to know. I don't want to know at all. The sooner we burn this world to the ground, the better. Back to the Feaster's Lair, where I'm supposed to be, and where we've got a few bosses to tackle and several new toys to find. The first one is called the Tarbile Tooth, and the second one is, ribs. I don't know, man, this place is weird. The teeth are similar to firebombs as far as mechanics go, except for one crucial difference. They create a toxic cloud upon bursting. And while yes, this toxic cloud can do damage to me as well, any enemy that sits in the cloud gets hit multiple times for full damage each time. Used in combination with firebombs, that's amazing. They still have the same drawbacks as firebombs, and only do about 75% of their damage, but that's 75% of the damage applied multiple times. What's more, if you toss multiple teeth, the gas clouds stack, which means this might be the perfect weapon for melting stationary bosses. Gives me chills just thinking about it. Which brings us to the first boss of the area, the Vulture. Much like the rock giant, his head is his weak point, so the arcing throw of the firebomb is the perfect weapon for the job. And while the teeth have the same arc, they don't do damage on impact, and the Vulture stands a bit too high away from the poison clouds to take damage. Next time. But in any case, with minimal effort, we blast our way through phase 1, which means it's time for the wormy boys. I decided to give the mines a try, since the worms will more or less just scoot in your direction until they can hit you, and this worked rather well, considering they do the same amount of damage as firebombs. And after narrowly dodging the Vulture's attacks and dealing with the remaining worms, it doesn't take long before the last worm is destroyed and the Vulture itself is defeated. Another boss down, and for my troubles, I can now dash in midair, getting stronger all the time. Which brings us to the next boss in the area, the Jaw Crab. Normally, this boss is easy. Just absorb his pincers, then finish the fight while dodging his now neutered attacks. God, I missed the parry-only run. Unfortunately, we're gonna have to fight a fully loaded, fully clawed crab for this run, but there's an upside. He stands still every now and again, which means it's time to break some teeth. Break out the teeth? We're poisoning the crab. You get it. It takes a little maneuvering to make sure that I don't catch myself in my own toxic clouds, but with the poison clouds stacking several times over, the jaw crab melts with little to no issue. Sure hope the rest of the bosses are that easy. So with that done, it's time for the final boss of the area. But first, I just realized we never showed off what the ribs do. They're just beefed up throwing knives. Better damage, more distance. Simple enough. I hunt down another one of the warpy boys, who is kind enough to give me the loot I crave, break through a false wall, talk to this little fella, whose favorite white noise is the sound of tears. Are you a member of my audience? And eventually, find an updated version of the first boss, the misbegotten Amalgam. Now, normally, this boss is hard, like incredibly so. He has a whole series of attacks that you can't parry, can destroy entire halves of the arena, and hits like a semi-truck. But he's got one weakness. Yep, he doesn't move. Which means we can stack up 2 or 3 teeth at a time, dodge a few attacks, and watch his health bar dwindle as we play keep away. Damage over time, baby. It's a hell of a drug. And with his death, we can now pull items. Not essential, considering we won't need any of the hidden armors or weapons that tend to be just out of reach, but it does speed up how long it takes me to pick up items off the floor, which I'll happily take. No, hey, it's the listener. He, seems a bit upset that I took away his white noise. Well, hey, I'm sure you'll find something new to listen to soon. Oh, hey, I didn't know you were a member of the Firebomb Academy. Anywho, I make my way out of Teethland so that we can... I'm sorry, are you following me? Look, do you want me to find you someone else to listen to? I'm sure someone around here needs a good cry. Oh, okay, more explosives then. Sheesh, what a weirdo. Just trying to wrap up all the bosses I missed. Oh, come on, don't you have something better to do? Look, I'm sorry, all right? You're a member of the Firebomb Academy. You should know that the world must be purged and all right, I'm talking to a brick wall. You just can't reach some people. Anyway, after talking to Shidra, I was told to go back to the child bed. Great, so good, my favorite. But with all of our new abilities and weapons, this place actually isn't too bad. There's not much to say about the inhabitants, aside from them being full of tentacles and very weird. So instead, let's jump right into the next new boss that's been added since the last video, the Giant of Eyes. Much like the previous bosses, the Giant of Eyes doesn't move too much, so getting a slew of teeth bombs underneath his feet isn't too difficult. But he does have a series of long-range attacks to make up for his slow movement, some of which take up the entire arena and require very specific timing to dodge. Thankfully, my teeth bombs continue to do damage while we dodge through the bullet hell this boss creates, but my health is definitely taking a hit. And after a very close call, the Giant of Eyes is done. Kinda wonder why they call him the Giant of Eyes though. Oh. Yeah, no, that makes much more sense now. Well, we're completely out of health and healing items, but I'm sure this will go fine. Alright, second time's the charm. He's definitely picking up speed in the second phase, but so long as we stay out of reach of his sword, I'm sure it'll be... Alright, what if we... Okay, poison cloud bad, got it. How about just regular firebombs? I mean, the regular firebombs do extra damage if you hit his head, and you don't have to worry about additional damage zones like you do with the T. Okay, it's official. I'm stuck. I've been throwing myself at this brick wall for over an hour now, and this is the closest I got. We could throw ourselves at the wall until it falls over, but I think it's time we find a new tool. What do you think, listener? Got any ideas? Interesting concept, and I love the enthusiasm, but let's keep our options open. I head to the Gloom Nest, which I kinda missed on my first pass through the area, and accidentally stumble upon another boss, the Jaw Stag. It moves incredibly fast in comparison to the other bosses, but after using ribs to do some chip damage, and firebombs to do bigger chunks whenever there's a wider opening between attacks, the jaw stat goes down on the first try, and helps me complete my second breath expansion. More heals, more chances. I also found another warpy boy, which means we're one step closer to another Estus flask, but more importantly, I found something that's going to change everything. Behold, the Urn of Volatile Eyes. But what is an Urn of Volatile Eyes, I hear you ask? Well, I could tell you, but for the visual learners in the audience, let me show you with this next boss fight, the Desert Watcher. It has the same wind-up time and arc as the firebomb, but instead of one explosion, there are 4. That's right, Grime has finally answered the age-old question of what happens when you tie a bunch of firebombs together and throw them like a single deadly package. Unsurprisingly, the answer is explosions. Unending, forever burning, beautiful explosions. Oh, and a breath capacity increase. Apparently. So, with a third heal and a way to throw several firebombs in one throw, I think it's time to check in with our giant friend. Hey buddy, I got you a gift. Why don't you... Oh, that's much better. Jesus wept, he didn't stand a chance. His health bar couldn't even keep up. There's still the second phase to contend with, but considering the damage we're dishing out is now much higher, I have a sneaking suspicion that we're gonna make it. And, just as predicted, we do. First try with our new equipment, and the Giant of Eyes is finally toast. Kinda wish I hadn't spent several hours throwing my head against the wall now. Hey, are you gonna die, or... Whoa, hey, come on, kid. That knocks you down. Just take the L already. Oh, jeez, he's going Super Saiyan. There's no stopping him now. Oh, never mind. He's dead. And what's this? I can now warp between checkpoints? Don't mind if I do. You know, I think the Urn of Volatile Eyes is supposed to be a rare item. It might be a bit overpowered. Not that I'm complaining, mind you. Just saying. I use my new warping ability to head back to the beginning of the game, where I've once again forgotten to kill a boss, but as can be expected with our now mid to end game consumables, this boss doesn't stand much of a chance. Just dodge the attacks, position yourself so that you can attack without getting hit by falling rocks, and before you know it, the grieving rock giant goes down after taking 4 firebombs directly to the face. God, I love this thing. FromSoft, get on it. I need more of this in my life. At this point, I may have gotten a bit confused about where to go, and Sheidra wasn't exactly being helpful, so I decided to just push forward into the Carven City and see what that did for me. Oh look, it's Jan, our little buddy who just wants to be beautiful. I mean, we could try a different color of face paint. That might give you a fresh look. Or you could do that. That works too, I guess. I find myself a third thin knacker, which means we've got another Estus flask under our belt. Talk to Jan, who's already decided he's over it and wants to move on to the next fashion trend. Blow my way through the Carven Palace, which isn't too difficult with all of my upgrades. Then, after about an hour of dipping and diving through multiple platforming puzzles, I arrive at Shapely Fidus. Man, what's with everyone in this game being a Firebomb Academy member? Didn't realize we were that popular. Fidus takes plenty of damage from our firebombs, so there's no issue there, but he does move around very quickly, and has several area of effect attacks. However, after learning his moveset a bit better and planning ahead of time on how to counter his more difficult moves, this fight becomes a complete cakewalk, proving once again that firebombs are overpowered in every game they're in. 2 tries. That wasn't so bad. Oh, right, there's a third phase. There's nothing to do for this part of the fight. Just dip, duck, dodge, dive, and dodge. And eventually, after a short burst of attacks and damage, Fidus explodes. For real this time. And with his death, we can now self-pull, which means the platforming puzzles are even more complicated now. Hooray! In all honesty though, I'm just joking around. The jumping puzzles do get more complicated, but it feels damn good when you're doing them. Best platforming I've felt in a long time. But with the palace destroyed, I guess it's time we go back to spooky Nightmare Land. What's happening back there? There appears to be thoughts floating around out here. Thoughts about spirals and flowers. 3 particular flowers, in fact. Sounds like we missed something. A hole of otherwhere. Spiral heart. This means... Oh no. Does anyone else's heart hurt right now? No? Just me? Okay, just checking. And while we can technically move on, since I found the strand of the child just sitting here, I have the strangest feeling that I should investigate this third flower. Ah, yep, sure enough, a third new boss, the surrogate vulture. This thing is a beast. It's faster than the original vulture, and most of its attacks fill the arena with damage clusters. It's actually quite the challenge to avoid all of his attacks, but there's still hope, because much like the other giant bosses, it has a weak point, its face. And hitting its face with a direct hit from my firebomb cluster does a lot of damage. And with a little greed, the vulture is beaten right into its second phase. And let me tell you, if you had trouble with the first phase, you're gonna love the second. We've got giant pain waves, Hammer of Dawn strikes, a shadow version that pops up to create even more problems, and an ultimate attack which turns the entire arena into a killing floor, so that you have to maneuver between anchors while simultaneously avoiding a rain of bombs from the sky. It's a bit difficult, not gonna lie, but after a few tries and after learning the attacks a bit better, the surrogate vulture eventually meets his match, disintegrating into the ether from whence it came. And for our prize, we can now hover, which means fall damage is a thing of the past, and jumping across gaps just became a lot easier. God, the abilities in this game are so good! With all the pieces collected, I returned to Shidra so he can give me the key to Cenotaph City. But, as always, I seem to have missed a boss again. The Artisan of Flesh is hidden away, just trying to enjoy his lunch break. Can't have that now. The Firebomb Goddess waits for no one. The Artisan is a trickster of a boss. Rather than fight you directly, he summons in several traps around the map in hopes that you'll kill yourself. In-game. Which I do when I fail to notice that I'm standing on some newly formed spikes. Thankfully, he's not very beefy, and with a bit more emphasis on staying alert and keeping an eye on my surroundings, the Artisan dies pretty quickly. In-game. And with that, I've collected all 3 breath expansions. That's 3 heals per fight, plus the Estus I've been collecting this entire run. Safe to say, healing is no longer an issue. Speaking of issues, Jan seems to be having one. Turns out he kinda regrets smashing his face, and doesn't feel any better despite being more shapely. Alright, well that's a bit rude. I understand you're upset that I've killed everyone that could have possibly helped you become more beautiful, but it's not like I've been coy about my plans or anything. Alright, man. Sorry, I guess. Well, with Jan out of the way, I guess we need to push forward to— oh, it's Jan again. Come on, man, I don't need another mid-run crisis. This game's lore ruins me enough as it is. In any case, it's time to fight Jan. He throws multiple bombs and sharp objects at you from above, while his lackeys try to destroy you down below. And while the lackeys are easily dispatched, there's a bit of a problem. I can't reach Jan, and being the clever little goober that he is, he won't come down. He'll just keep throwing things at me forever. Which means, I'm sad to say, this puts the nail in the coffin. No, you cannot beat Grime with only consumables. Defeated by Jan, of all things. You did it, buddy. You stopped me from destroying the world and everything in it. It's just a shame that the show must go on. Oh, look, loot. Don't do this to me, game. No. No. I don't want to cry again. You know, I'm fine. There's just something in both of my eyes. I cut my way into Cenotaph City, say hello to the slime guys, then ring the bell to signal the final performance. Nearly there now. I dodge my way through the first phase, then start blasting my way through the second. It's actually harder than you'd think. Not only is this boss hefty AF, but he attacks very quickly, which makes it difficult to time your firebomb tosses correctly. Thankfully, the second phase is a lot easier to judge the timing of, since I'm just dodging through the dancer's attacks rather than trying to parry them. And with one final firebomb, the performer goes down. I guess it's time. Time to destroy everything. I think this is right. I mean, isn't it? I don't want to play anymore. I'm literally tearing this universe apart. And it isn't the first either. The Firebomb Academy's teachings have brought about the destruction of several timelines, and I've never questioned it before. So why now? What gives me pause? Why do I feel like something is eating me up inside? These memories, this womb. I just can't, man. I don't know why, but everything about this makes me want to cry. This world wants to live, wants to keep trying to survive. It wants to live. But if I don't consume, then what is my purpose? I was born to destroy this plane of existence, literally created for that sole purpose. Nothing will stop me. So why do you all keep fighting? There's nothing left for you here. I've taken away most of it already. Even if I were to stop, you'd be left with nothing more than desolation. A desert where nothing remains and nothing will ever grow again. And even if I wanted to stop, even if I wanted to join you in enjoying what precious little time there is for all of us, I can't. I physically can't. Until, suddenly, I can. Once again, I am reminded that it's me. I'm the one who lights the fuse. I'm the one who pushes forward, even when the rules say I can stop. I'm the one who claws deeper into the dark, deeper into the silence, all the way to the bottom. And after I reach the bottom, I dig through it and keep going until there's nothing left. Nothing but me.